Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
Has anxiety ever talked you out of doing something you really wanted or needed to do? Maybe it wasn't dramatic, maybe it wasn't a full-on panic attack, but still the feeling was strong enough to keep you stuck, frozen, avoiding that conversation, putting off that decision, backing away from an opportunity that deep down you knew mattered. Anxiety may not physically paralyze us, but it can cloud our judgment. It distorts how we see the world, pulling our attention away from what's in front of us and toward imagined disasters. It tells us to retreat, to avoid, to hide. But here's the catch. Every time we give in to that fear, we reinforce it. We teach our brains that avoidance is the safest route, and the cycle tightens its grip. This brings us to a perspective that's both ancient and incredibly relevant. In one of the lessons from Epictetus' discourses, the Stoic teacher tells his students something surprising. It isn't external events like pain, exile, or even death that cause us to act or to freeze. It's the judgment we make about those events. In other words, it's not the thing itself, it's what we think about the thing. Epictetus says we should take full ownership of the judgments that shape our actions. If we do something harmful, unwise, or cowardly, it's not because someone made us do it. It's because of how we interpreted the situation. And when we truly accept this, something powerful happens. We stop pointing fingers. We stop blaming other people, bad luck, or the universe. We realize that the way we see things, the stories we tell ourselves, are within our control. Marcus Aurelius, another great Stoic, sums this up by quoting a philosopher named Monimus in his Meditations. Everything is as you take it to be. That's not to say the world isn't full of real challenges, but our ability to respond, to act wisely, to endure, to move forward, comes from how we perceive those challenges. And that's the real skill. Examining our judgments, questioning our gut reactions, and learning to interpret events in a way that helps us grow rather than shrink. Epictetus advised lifelong learning in this regard, not just learning facts, but learning about ourselves. So from today on, we won't examine and scrutinize the state or status of anything else, such as our land, our slaves, our horses, or our hounds, but only our judgments. You can see then that you have to become a student, that butt of universal mockery, if you really want to look into your judgments. And even you recognize that this is not the work of a single hour or day. And here's where things come full circle. When we act despite our anxious feelings, when we move forward anyway, we're not just tolerating discomfort, we're training ourselves. We're proving to our own minds that those anxious feelings, while uncomfortable, are not dangerous. We can handle them. They don't have to run the show. Over time, it gets easier, more natural. We start to trust ourselves more. The Stoics called this using hardship as fuel, and Marcus Aurelius wrote about it beautifully. The mind turns around every hindrance to its activity and converts it to further its purpose. The impediment to action becomes part of the action. The obstacle in our way becomes the way forward. End quote. They even practiced voluntary discomfort, sleeping on the floor, skipping meals, not because they were masochists, but because they knew that getting comfortable with discomfort builds resilience. We can apply that same principle today by choosing to act when we feel anxious, unsure, or afraid. Every time you do that, you grow. Your world expands, your confidence builds. What once felt terrifying starts to feel manageable, maybe even easy. The formula can be stated quite simply. When you do the thing you're afraid of, you teach your brain that it's survivable, and it becomes less scary. So if anxiety shows up for you today, take a moment, listen to it, see what it's pointing at, and then ask yourself, what if I moved forward anyway? What might be waiting for me on the other side? And if fear still has a grip on you, ask this instead. What will it cost me if I don't act? We tend to regret the things we don't do far more than the things we try and stumble at. So let that be your compass. If there's something you know you need to do, Let the fear of missing out on your potential outweigh the fear of discomfort. Because if you never try, you'll never know.